Hey friends, it's Aislynn.
And Joe.
And I am super excited to now have a playlist on the Aislynn Campbell YouTube channel.
Dinner Table Talks.
Exactly. So while you're here on my YouTube channel, subscribe to Aislynn Campbell. You'll see all the cool stuff I'm putting out.
Super cool.
And be sure to like this podcast as well.
And while you're listening, go over to your favorite podcast platform. You know the whole list. Go wherever you go and like, rate, and subscribe to us there as well. It helps us out.
So pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage.
We have got so much to talk about. It felt today like all of the foundational work had been done, to where after getting up and quickly mowing of the yard, the area that needed it, that I could spend my day doing anything else that I wanted to, because everything else was kind of taken care of.
Yeah. That sounds like a nice Saturday right before Father's Day.
It was a fantastic Saturday. Got the drapes hung.
Yeah. You did help me prep for that class this morning.
Yep.
We spent some time today. My friend Cassie Vanetchik, and she has an online presence called the Unhinged Homesteader. She is a studying naturopath, and we started talking about her doing some classes, and then she did a farm forage class out here. This was the follow-up makers class, the tinctures, tonics, and salves.
Salves.
It went well this morning. It was a nice little turnout. It rained.
That was weird.
I felt like we called it.
It was this like
Burst.
quick burst.
Yep.
But hard.
Yes.
And you guys had just gathered in the pavilion, and it was that tin roof was going nuts.
Yes. But Joe made us up some tea.
I'm the tea guy.
And we added some spearmint and some lemon balm to it. And of course, because the class is about using these different plants and medicinal things you can grow on your property, different ways to use those, it was great to have that available, because that's one of the things you would do, is put it into your teas. Yeah, we really are figuring out ways to use the pavilion as a family here on the farm. Of course, having a nice dinner tomorrow for Father's Day.
Yep. Your mom's frying a bunch of chicken.
She is. And I'm excited about that.
I bet we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of the ongoing conversations and things we've been talking about at the dinner table about just what are the values of the human race currently, And that may seem like a very dude, she just went down a rabbit hole there. But the thing about it is, for me, that it's all connected. And whatever it is that I'm doing here at the farm, and whatever time I'm spending, as I do things like host classes where a friend comes and teaches people how to prep salves and tinctures. We are prepping. I mean, that's a part of what we're doing. But I'm not here to sell you something that you're not interested in buying. I'm not here to be a fear-based marketer. I'm here to do the things that I enjoy doing. We're here as a family to enjoy these things together. And we've got this great space that my dad has grown up, and my dad and mom's dreams met together in these different projects that have created things that we are so excited to get to be involved in. And how do I bring people into that, but in a way that meets my highest values and your highest values?
They're the most enjoyable.
Well, enjoyable has got to be at the top of that. Does it feel good? Mm-hmm. Do I enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being out in the garden, and I enjoy flowers, and I enjoy being a part of planting seeds to start new plants, to start new projects. Okay, let's try this thing. Let's plant this seed. We're going to provide it all the opportunity to succeed. Is this a plant that's going to thrive here or not? Each one of these things, the long lunch club, doing the family farm camp, day family farm camp, doing these collaborative classes with someone that comes and teaches us some things here and shows us what she knows, hosting these dinner table talk, dinner events.
Right.
Now I've got this idea kind of brewing up where we are just coming together for food, fellowship, and service. And what does that mean? Well, I've got a space out here. I want people to come and be a part of it.
It's therapeutic for you, and I think that you want to share that notion with other people.
Well, absolutely. But here's the thing. I want people that want to be invested in it. And so what does that mean? Okay, so let's take it from all the one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. People that are willing to fork out the moment my household larders come out, that system comes out,
Right.
fork over the dollar for it that day.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
I want to get it fast before it sells out.
We're invested, right? All the way on the other side to where people are like, you charge for that, you know? But there is literally, and I don't mean to say like kind of the cliche things that we say, like nothing is free and freedom ain't free and all the like cliche things but that is the truth. There is nothing that is free. I understand that there's a shift in economics right now. I understand that the gas prices, the food prices, I understand that the idea that your budget may shift so far away from the idea that you can even put any money into education or luxury or any of that, that you're just simply beginning to focus 100% on the essentials, but you also still really value learning how to grow food and learning more options for sourcing food. And
is there a positive trajectory and people interested in that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Feels like it to me.
It does feel like it, but I also know that we surround ourselves with a bubble of it,
Sure.
you know?
That's a good point.
I do know that I went to the farmer's market on Wednesday and I was standing there having a chat with someone I've been friends with a long time, long before I started down the Grow Local path. Her and some of the projects that she partnered with, she brought to me so that she could help me be successful. So she's standing there with me. We're looking around the farmer's market. We're having a very honest conversation. And she says, this farmer's market looks better than farmer's markets we've seen in many Junes. You are 100% correct. That is correct. Maybe that's a part of this thing that I'm trying to like work out all the time, is that I can literally see both ends of the spectrum, but they're like really far away from each other. This hope and this lightness and this peace and this harmony and this perfection and this beauty and all of this stuff. But then in the very same sphere, there's complete apathy and complete illness and complete negligence.
Both sides are kind of screaming out loud right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, okay. That's a very good way to say it. And it's just that I don't know how to explain, because I hear so many people saying like, I don't know what to do to move forward. I'm stuck. I want out of everything, but don't know how to get out of anything. I'm exactly where I always wanted to be, and I don't want any of it. There's this yin-yang loudness that is going on, and it makes you feel like you're just in this constant state of tumultuousness. And so because of that, if there are people out there who are doers and who need some balance, grounding. They need to be grounded into something. They need to see that there is, even in the drought and the rain and the flood and all of the different things that occur in the life, the death, all the things that occur in nature, even in that very like opposing yin and yang world of the garden,
let me ask you this. You're using yin and yang as combative. But
no, I'm not calling them combative, but they're going to create friction.
But the goal of yin yang is harmony. It's having two separate things that fit together. Think of the picture.
Exactly. But what if you're like what if they're being like drawn apart from each other so hard that it's causing like this friction of tumultuousness that is like...
Well, there certainly is a dualistic nature of inhumanity right now.
Exactly.
We must take a side on everything. It's us versus you on everything.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And then my brain goes backwards on it over and over and over again. I don't believe in separation. At the end of the day, I can go on and on and on with everyone about every conversation. We can have all of these philosophical, interesting conversation about friction and duality and yin and yang and dark and light and the choices we make in life and our value systems and all of that. But when it comes down to it, I am all. Just like you are. There is nothing that is separate. And so if we don't both agree, if we don't agree about that, then we're going to always be separated in our conversation. But that's okay. It's okay.
Well, it used to be okay.
It has to be okay. I mean, that's the thing with non-duality. No matter what you choose to believe, I have to understand that is 100% okay because I'm a part of it. But I believe that. And so I have to live in that. And that doesn't mean other people do believe that. And they can live however they choose to. And that's the craziest part about what's happening right now, is that I'm sitting in rooms with people telling me that people who are calling themselves people that love everyone from the highest level of light and love, they cannot hang out with this other person because they got in a tiff over some other little nonsensical political discussion. So that's impossible, what you just said. It's making me desire to completely disconnect, but at the same time, be here for those that are looking for some way to completely disconnect, but yet be connected. In the same, how do we get out here in the garden and work alongside each other?
I catch myself in conversations these days where, and I'm not by any means perfect at it. Hey, did you hear about the this and the this? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no.
People ask you that question.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I am trying to get away from some media where when you figure out the cyclical purpose of how they make money and what's working for them to keep people clicking, no, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's one of those shifts that, I still like the news on this topic or that subject.
Well, but that's the thing about it, is there's so many layers of letting it go. There's so many layers to, okay, well, just when you thought you let it go, you get slapped upside the head real hard with something that you that was just your ego pretending it let something go. But you're safe to gossip with, so I'm going to gossip with you. That's what ends up happening. Even when we're sitting in this space of quiet and prayer and gardening and meditation and whatever, all by ourselves, that's great. But what about when you go back into the world again and you react with other people? I'm trying to create a space where some of us can get together, garden, cook a meal, talk about some things that, it's hard to get into conversations, safe conversations where you can just openly and protectedly have hard conversations. It's so hard to even walk into a grocery store these days anymore without being set off by something, because someone said something and someone else said something and they were triggered and that triggered you and this triggered you. And these are literally just words that people are saying. Everyone is like a powder keg right now. So how do we come together, sharing a meal that can be affordable? Affordable? How? Because if you're invested and interested in learning how to garden or gardening or bringing yourself to a space where you can ground or having a delicious meal or whatever, well, then you are going to be 100% willing to help out and make it happen and bring things to the table that help make it happen. And so we're able to start coming up with some of these concepts out here.
You're creating a dinner salon. I just figured this out.
Well, but it's even different than a dinner salon because we're going to go work together. This is not rocket science, by the way. How many farms in the world have people that come over, help with a project in the morning, make lunch together, serve a lunch dinner table together, sit down, eat and talk, dinner, lunch, whatever. You're right. A salon.
Thank you.
It's a dinner table talk. This is how it has worked, where people have actually been able to change the world, change the whole trajectory of certain types of real concerns. And for us, all we can do right now is take care of our closest community. That's literally all we can do.
I know what you mean. You articulated that well, this sizzling energy when you go to, so you don't even go to the store.
No. But I go in.
But when
public.
I go to the store, if you want to create a pre-COVID, post-COVID kind of thing, people are different.
Yes, absolutely.
This is just my observation. This is a sociological event that we have never gone through before.
We have never gone through before.
That's what I meant. The living generation.
Yeah.
And when I talk about generation, I'm talking about median age.
Yeah.
Because there are people on the older ages that have gone through things similar.
But most of them can hardly even remember yesterday. The ones
or
that
they're
are still
one
alive,
generation removed and remembered hearing those tales.
And so the first one is coming up. It's actually going to be on Wednesday. And I'm excited it's a morning time thing. So we're going to get up early in the morning. We're going to work on a project outside together. We're going to prep a meal and then we're going to have lunch and have a talk. And the entire thing is free, but you can't just show up. You got to let me know you're coming. So go over to my website, aislynncampbell.com, if you live in our area, or if whatever, I don't know, you're traveling to our area, get in touch with us. That would be cool too. I would love to meet you and have lunch with you and work with you on our farm. It's aislynncampbell.com. Get to the Growing with Grace page, and there's a place where you can RSVP on there as well. Or just go on and sign up for my email. And then you'll see when these events come up as we begin to create the things that are really going to make this sustainable homestead be the sustainable homestead that I believe my entire family is looking for as a legacy to our community.
Unanswered questions.
Last week we talked about the wasp stings.
Yes.
Yellow jackets.
Yeah.
Posted a little thing on Facebook, and
We got all kinds of responses.
Terry says basil oil.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because immediately today during Cassie's class, I grow a lot of basil out here and I've done basil tinctures and stuff like that with it. So I was like, oh, we need to try that next time, like putting the basil tincture right on the sting as well. I'd like to see some other options besides just this one. Like, what if we couldn't buy that from the grocery store? What do we have growing out here on the farm?
And Emily says, I find copious repeated curse words the best home remedy. It's like she was there.
Yeah, exactly. That's fun. I'm noticing that it's happening a lot these days, that people are really starting to interact with us and talk back to us, which is a lot of fun. So please continue to do that. We love it.
I gave this next unanswered question a lot of thought. As residents of this bird sanctuary that we live in, Corpus Christi, Nueces County.
Oh, yes.
The birdiest
The
city
part
in
where
America.
I didn't know the name of the pink stork-looking thing that flew out of our tank last week.
It wasn't 5 seconds after the podcast came out that your mom texted you the answer.
Yes. Roseate spoonbill.
Yes.
I should have known that.
Well, I'm going to get to that. It's a gregarious wading bird of the ibis and spoonbill family. It's a resident breeder in both South and North America from March through October. Roseate spoonbills prefer the bays, marshes, and estuaries along the Gulf Coast.
We have a lot of birds here, you guys. If you are not from our area and you like birds or you're remotely interested in nature, you should come to the Gulf Coast, come to the Coastal Bend to see the birds, especially in April.
We
That's a
happen
really
to
good
be
time.
on a collision
Yes.
of migratory paths for birds.
Yes. And if you're coming down here, you should definitely tell me you're coming so that you can come here to the farm and see the birds that are crossing right here at the farm.
I'm excited about something. When we first moved into the previous house, we had that typical like 50s tract housing lot size with that postage stamp green St. Augustine grass as far as the eye could see in the backyard.
Right.
And with a pecan tree sticking out.
Yes. A very nice pecan tree, I must say.
And I read an article, I don't remember, the way to bring life to your home, your new home, blah, 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 is to create a bird station.
I think it's placemaking. That would be my thing.
Yeah, and your mom...
Bird Sanctuary is one of those.
Your mom is a fabulous resource.
Oh, yeah.
And friends like Shelley.
For birds, yeah.
Shelley's husband made the tapache that he gave us.
And you made tapache.
You wanted a pineapple this week. I used the rinds to make tapache.
There are so many connections in our network.
A network of people that found out that we wanted to attract birds were saying you need to have water. That's why you have bird baths. Seed, of course. That's why you have bird feeders.
Yeah.
And birds are attracted to places where there is motion in the water, which is why I created that drip.
Yeah.
And an area where they can evade a predator.
Yes.
And we created this bird situation.
Yep.
And it was fun. When your gardens got to a point, it was time to get rid of the bird because they can do some damage.
Well, if you have a very small garden and a big bird sanctuary, you're going to have more birds than your garden
The ratio is off.
Yes.
Well, since you've got so much area out here, we have used the last 2 weeks to kind of put together and
We've got a new
spruce
little
up
bird
our
sanctuary.
bird sanctuary area.
Yes, we
And
do.
I noted today some twittering that I didn't recognize, and I looked out the window, and the guy was eating our seeds.
The guy.
I'm very excited.
We'll call him the guy.
Why is it called a Dutch oven? Because a guy saw a similar pot in the Netherlands, came home and began manufacturing them, and called them Dutch ovens in reference to where he learned of it.
So it's not like some kind of old, like, Dutch oven. It's just, we stole the name of that from
I don't know who
whoever
we
made
is.
it.
I stole nothing.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't steal.
Now, in America, when you see a Dutch oven called for in a recipe, it's usually like just any lidded metal pot.
Right.
Your aluminum, your stainless,
Right.
whatever. But a Dutch oven is cast iron. And the closest thing we have is that Le Creuset pot that I don't use at all. The enamel covered cast iron. Although I use my cast iron every day.
We have a Le Creuset teapot.
Very fancy.
So fancy.
We live in luxury.
We used the Waterford. People should come hang out with us here at the farm, by the way.
People should put a
because
backyard
we're
bird watching
crazy.
station in.
People should put it is so much fun. One of my most favorite gardening stories learning with you.
Go ahead.
The caterpillar story.
Yeah. And that was our bird station attracting the red, Oriole? What was it?
No, not
cardinal?
an Oriole. Yeah, the cardinal.
And you with fields of dill for caterpillars to munch on before they go to...
Early gardening in the backyard. I mean, I was still in the very early development of those gardens.
And the thing we did there was create these little pockets where you wanted to set a chair...
Yeah.
And enjoy the
That's how
the
I
view.
do it out here, too.
Right.
I move my chair around once I develop the... Yeah. So we're sitting there watching.
I'm watching this caterpillar all day long.
Oh, he's just like so excited. And he's like, I can tell that this caterpillar is about to cocoon.
Yes.
And it was.
And I want to watch the whole thing.
And I've been sitting there watching it with him a few days. And I hadn't really thought this out or anything. But all of a sudden I look up and just a few feet away is a cardinal.
Doing his job with our birdseed that we're laying out for him.
And I look down at the caterpillar that Joe's been watching and is watching currently. And I go, I didn't say it out loud. I thought it. That caterpillar's about to be gone. And zoop, zoop. I mean, it was the fastest thing. And you were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, I think we'd even named that caterpillar like Leroy or something like that.
This show had a biggest twist in it. You don't kill off the main character.
So I saw someone had written, they'd made Fideo on, I don't know, some social media, probably Instagram, because that's where I follow people more now than anywhere else. And I was like, Fideo, that sounds delicious. And of course, the subject comes up about what's for dinner, what are we going to do for dinner, do you have any ideas, whatever. And I was like, Fideo? And then you were like, name something else. And I said, pollo con calabaza. So apparently I was having the like...
Well, I know you knew what was coming out of the garden.
Yeah, tomatoes. And my tomato thing is always going to lean more. Your tomato thing is always going to lean more towards Italian food.
It's brewing right now.
My tomato thing is always going to lean more towards Mexican food.
And we're about to talk about it.
Yeah, so the Fideo got made. And interesting, on Instagram, someone did ask me the question, what gluten-free noodles did you use for Fideo?
Right.
So tell us about that.
Okay, so Fideo, to my mind, immediately goes to the yellow box package of Fideo Vermicelli by Q&Q.
Okay,
That was always in my pantry growing up as a kid, as far back as I can remember. But my mom used those noodles to break them up real small and serve them in like broth for a quick and easy noodle soup.
I thought they were already broken into little pieces.
Maybe they were. I wasn't involved in
That's
the
what I
cooking
thought
of it.
the Fideo. That's
But
what
she
I
went
thought
to that yellow
Fideo
box.
was.
Yeah. Well, Fideo is aka vermicelli.
Right. That part I knew. Vermicelli, thin noodle.
And the way I was served Fideo noodles was not accurate at all. I don't think
Like
I've
you weren't
ever
having
had
had
Fideo,
Fideo.
prior to now.
It's basically just chicken noodle soup with tomato in it, right?
There was no chicken.
No? Okay, well, I don't even know what I was eating. So could you tell me? Please tell me what I was eating. Isn't that strange? I crave Fideo. I have no idea what Fideo is.
Traditional
but please feed it to
Fideo
me.
is homemade tomato sauce.
Okay.
Tomatoes, onions, garlic. I just pureed it in the processor.
Oh, that makes it even better.
In homemade chicken broth.
Okay. So you could make this a completely
And your
vegetarian,
Fideo
gluten-free thing.
Now, you asked about the gluten-free noodles.
Uh-huh.
I Googled gluten-free. I don't know why I do that. I Googled. Made it really exciting with that inflection. Gluten-free Fideo. And it is available, but not in our market.
Yeah.
So the recipes would say, use any spaghetti-type noodle that's gluten-free.
Uh-huh.
But the other trick is to fry your noodles. Now, when you're frying Fideo noodles, your durum wheat, is that going to be the same as a gluten-free noodle? I don't know, but here we go.
Right.
So I broke them into small pieces and fry them in oil until they get the golden brown. If it's the durum wheat, I think I got it to what the gluten-free noodles were.
Uh-huh.
I used Barilla gluten-free spaghetti.
So nothing special, just gluten-free spaghetti. But you broke it up like Fideo noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Fry it up.
fried it.
Add your homemade tomato sauce. Add your broth. Boil. You're done. I said to myself, well, let's get a bunch of vegetables in there too. It's not going to hurt it.
It's so good. It was
So
really
I
good.
finally diced the squash and zucchini and yellow squash.
Uh-huh.
Kind of softened it and then dumped it into the dish before I served it to you. Thinly sliced avocado on top.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That made a difference.
And a squirt of lime.
Yeah, it was good. It's official. I love soups, and I would eat soup for lunch every single day.
Soup's a good Venn diagram for my cooking and your eating because there's plenty of leftovers and you can eat lunch throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite nice. I
Throughout
did
the
add
week.
a little bit of cilantro salt that I've made into it just to give it a little more pop. I liked that a lot too. I would also say I've been using a lot more of my pepper vinegar where I take my hottest peppers and put them in a jar and then fill that jar up with some good like wine vinegar. And I've been adding that to like a lot of things and I love it. I'm like addicted to it now. It's like spicy vinegar stuff.
I also made the pollo con calabazas.
That's one of my most favorite things that is ever made.
But we have discussed that before.
We have.
And I
plenty
will put
of
that
times.
episode number right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, starting this time of the year in South Texas, it is squash season. So that squash I used in the Fideo, I bought twice as much as I needed so that I could make pollo con calabazas. It's one of those dishes we make when squash first hits. Chicken with squash. You've got to try it at your place, and you can hear all about us making it back in episode 2.46. Go check that one out.
Speaking of delicious soups for lunch, which is my absolute favorite, I had a perfect lunch the other day. Some friends of mine that I had gotten to know back in my Grow Local days, when I was getting to know a lot of the chefs from our local college culinary school, Del Mar, they were coming and doing some different projects with Grow Local. They were helping out with fundraisers. They were doing some chefs competitions at the farmers market, stuff like that. And I'd gotten to know a couple of chefs that had just partnered up with a local nonprofits club facility that had a really nice kitchen. It was one of the things that we were constantly asked about with Grow Local was, we've got this kitchen. It's a certified kitchen. Would you know anybody that would be willing to kind of take it over and use it? So what the nonprofit is looking for is getting some funds, being a landlord of basically a chef in their kitchen.
Right.
But those kitchens aren't necessarily always set up. They're club kitchens or church kitchens or whatever. They're not necessarily set up for like a restaurant.
Right.
But this particular situation is pretty nice. They are serving lunch 5 days a week there now. What drew me to it was they had cucumber soup on the menu. Yes, I chase cucumber soup.
Yeah. Cold cucumber soup especially.
Cold cucumber soup. There's a place in town that I always get it at. I never can get a solid when are they going to have it for sure. So I like show up in the time of year when I expect to see it and hope that they have it on the menu, that kind of thing. But I see this, get your mom, you gather your mom up.
It's just down the street from where she lives.
Yeah. So you've got this win-win-win going on in this situation. You've got 4 chefs that are trying to launch their culinary career in South Texas.
Right.
You've got a nonprofit space that is utilizing its space in a way that it's probably not been used in many years.
It's a pop-up restaurant that can totally work.
They've got the room for it. They've got the kitchen. They've got nice restrooms. They've got, they've got the whole setup, right? And now they've got this lunch menu. So the name of it, so for everybody that lives here locally, they're called the USS Chefs, and the location that they're using is the Corpus Christi Seaman Center. Okay.
I never been there before. I mean, that's another win for the whole thing is I knew this place existed.
Right.
It's in a historical part of our town that you're likely to drive around.
Right. Kind of the tourist area.
Right.
They call it the C District now, by the way.
And I'd never gone in, but you walk in and it's like
Yeah.
the history of how our city has been used to be the way station for people from all over the world.
Yep, exactly. We go in there and it's, okay, first they come out and they serve us this amazing cucumber soup.
Right.
My favorite. She said it's got a little bit of avocado in it.
Smoothed it out.
Oh, one of the conversations that I had with this chef, Zelina, I was speaking to her about it. She mentioned the reason that she doesn't use wheat to thicken up a creamy soup that was my first question. Let me ask you, is this got wheat? Is anything in this meal got wheat in it? Because I even need to know about the cream soups, because sometimes the cream soups have wheat in them.
Sure.
And she goes,
Haru.
you know what I do? I use starches from like potatoes. Remember we talked about that a few episodes ago
The
about
pasta
using
water, the potato water, how it can creamy up a soup.
Exactly. Now we're having this beautiful salad with the homemade dressing that she's made. And she doesn't like to call it a vinaigrette because it actually doesn't have any vinegar in it. It's just this bright,
She calls it a
lemony,
limette, a lot of lime
citrus,
juice.
you know. So they're getting to now talk to people they're super excited about, because here we are, you know, we talk about food on a podcast once a week. We talk about food in lives on Facebook once a week. You know, we serve our own menus. Here's a interesting conversation brewing over here. Then another lady that I've met from the farmer's market, she comes over and sits down at the table, and she is like vegan extraordinaire.
Yep.
Did you know you can get it vegan? And I'm like, yes. And so this conversation about special diets is like the center of the table here.
It's a 70-something-year-old woman talking at a table with you and I, and then
And she's been a follower of mine. She supports Grow Local and Farm to Table, and she comes to the farmer's market, and so we've known each other a while.
with my low 80 mom,
right,
who hasn't made all of the best health decisions in life and is maybe experiencing some of the follow-up on all that. Hearing a contemporary of hers speak completely differently about health and diet and
being in a completely
researching
different
how to
wellness
solve
space,
my problems.
mental space, everything. It was interesting. Then it was followed up with tostadas, because you're in South Texas. My absolute favorite thing to eat is either nachos or tostadas. That's, Last but not least, even a dessert that I could eat. It was this amazing vegan. You got to say the vegan part, because that was the part that the lady that came and sat at our table was so excited. You can get all this stuff vegan. And I was like, I am so excited to be here with chefs that I love and can talk to.
Right. Well,
this
a continuation
vegan
of that
mango mousse with chia seed, or I don't even know, some kind of delicious, amazing recipe. I know that Dana and Zelina could tell us all about it later on, maybe, or something. Maybe we'll get them involved in a dinner table talk. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah. It was a great meal. That evening was the same evening that we went to the farmer's market, and I probably told 10 different people, have you heard? You got to go. It's at lunch hour.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. A new place to eat lunch at downtown, that is a solid. People want that.
It's one of those places, and you and I have had the blessing of being involved in this kind of thing when it comes to food and restaurants a few times. The secret's about to get out, and we know it right now. But once that place catches on, we'll have to add some tables.
Yeah. I'm always hearing about interesting projects that my chef friends are doing. And I've been able to get into a few more conversations with some of them and talking to them about some more projects we can do here out at the farm and some different things that we can host. So
it's a continuation of that growing your network conversation.
Exactly.
I mean, another person that we know who was a local chef and did some government chef work just sent me her Facebook page for her brand new locally sourced restaurant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been involved in the early conversations with her on that project.
Would be a huge step forward.
Yep.
And then you struggle sometimes in our market with finding an audience for people that understand those values.
All I have to do is thank God for the idea to put the flag in the sand or plant the seed of years ago that we needed to start developing a local food network down here. I mean, the idea that you could even discuss having a restaurant that serves locally sourced food down here you couldn't have even had that. I mean,
let me ask you this. Since the time you started the farmer's market 10 years ago?
2012 is when the farmer's market started.
To now.
10 years ago. Yep, exactly.
The biggest hole immediately known was that absence of a network, of a food network.
Absolutely.
So...
And like so many things that are
what's the report card now
here
for it? Because 10 years ago, you never could have done a restaurant that did 100% locally sourced menu. You couldn't do it.
No.
Could you do it now? It would have to be very seasonal.
It has to be very seasonal. I think it still has to be pretty small scale. I think that it'll be interesting to see the way that it gets pulled off. Because I know what like Francesco does, and I know what Ara's does. And I know the different restaurants in town that do buy things from people. But I think that it is 100% possible. I think anything is 100% possible. We've already had that conversation many times.
That's the other switch that went off pre-COVID, post-COVID. It goes back to what you were talking about. Both sides. There is so much positive that erupted from that event.
It's
Which
both ends
one
of
are
the
you more
spectrum.
interested in?
Spectrum are very loud. That's a very good. I mean, it's just like this constant like back and forth, back and forth.
But a lot of people saying this is my chance. This is a reason to go after this different thing that I've always wanted to do. And I think that some of those gaps in this Food Network are being filled that way.
Because we were behind the curve on some things, we learned some things when the mistakes were made by the leaders of doing things. I'm going to take some credit. I'm going to take some credit for being a good, strong leader to kick off something and saying, we've got to kick it off right so we don't make the mistakes that other people already made about farmers markets and locally sourced restaurants. And because Houston should have had easy to find local food sourcing system way many years before they did.
Yeah.
And it's still a struggle in Houston. For that matter, it's still a struggle in Austin. You can find it, but it's definitely, but per capita. And I'm like, down here, it had some good leadership from the beginning, but I didn't just draw in, hey, everybody come follow me. I drew in leaders and planted seeds. And now here we are I'm going, yes. And you have to have people that are willing to do experiments and see those things just simply not work. But then the other side of me, when you ask me the question, is it evolving? Is it growing? Is it improving? I just go, man, some of the same stupid damn politics are getting in the way of the development and the growth of something that is really, in my opinion, a life and death situation. Like, do we have access to wellness? Do we have access to food? Do we have access to clean food? Do we have access to locally sourced food? Do we have access to life, basically? And we're still having political fights about it in certain spectrums and certain places. That's why you create
your own network.
Yeah, that's 100%.
It's a choice to be involved in those politics. If you say, I'm not going to be involved in that, but hey, look, the strawberries look great. I mean, from a consumer standpoint, in the last 10 years, as the person that does the shopping basically for you and I.
Right. You've seen it change.
It's leaps and beyond.
Absolutely.
I've got access to several meat vendors.
Yeah. We can buy hot dogs at the farmer's market.
Sometimes.
Like wings at the farmer's market. We can buy strawberries, peaches. I'm
seeing new vendors that are doing innovative things. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing
old vendors coming back.
I was going to say standby vendors, those tried and true folks that bringing more and more. I mean, gluten-free donuts for you. I mean, what are we talking about? It is on a very, very positive trajectory from a consumer's point
I do find it fascinating when I'm listening to people complain about how few options there are. I'm like, you have no idea.
Got to create your own network.
I'm like, really? You have no idea how bad it was and how much better and the light years ahead of where we were, sitting there having that conversation with somebody about the vegetarian, vegan. And the thing that I find really fascinating is that every single time I get into a conversation with like a wellness leader that maybe is new to being a leader in the wellness leader industry or new to town, some of those spaces, I'm like, oh, we've been fighting these battles for so long. But I can feel in them a sense of like urgency. And the thing that concerns me is, and this is the thing that always concerned me about me too, and that is a victim sense about it. I'm so angry with this city for not knowing what it needs to know. And because they don't listen, and because, you get this like sense of like, oh, and it's just because I used this certain word and that certain word turns people off, or man, if they could just understand the historical, I'm listening to people tell the exact same stories that I have been telling for 20 years. Or
that you've been hearing for 20 years.
Exactly. I guess this is part of what's my tumult in the midst of these like dualistic thought processes.
Well, so is your suggestion new, innovative things because those things that they're still griping about in the last 20 years
my suggestion is
working?
Stop fighting amongst yourselves. How do we create a network of wellness people? Yeah. And in the network of wellness people, we're so still lack-minded and apathetic and still stuck in shame, guilt, fear, blah, 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 that we fight amongst ourselves. It's why I left the farmers market world. It is literally why I don't participate in farmers markets. Because farmers markets are no different than any other human political system, right? It's all a part of the same, like, dynamics. So for me, it's like one extreme to the other. On one extreme, it's like you can get access to this beautiful, delicious, amazing food, and an outsider comes in and they're like, I found this like heaven, this crown of beauty with, look, this beautiful bay, and look at the potential this city has, and look at this farmer's market, and look at the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you sit down next to somebody that's been fighting for 20 years to get the little ounce of like wellness, and it feels a little bit challenging based on literally the question you asked, is it getting better? I don't know. I really don't know. And that's because I'm feeling so much tumult on both sides. I can see the complete and total joy of things going on and the beauty, and I can see the complete and total like exclusion of people. We don't want them involved because they don't believe in what we believe in. And it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to my heart. And so my heart is going, what do I do to solve this problem internally? Because that's the only way I know how to solve it, is to get inside myself and figure out, why am I warring inside? That's my answer to that, like, back and forth tumult, And I know that everyone has their own
Why am I choosing to have this reaction?
Well, I'm even to the point of it's beyond choosing. Yes, I understand that at the broader sense of things, I'm choosing it. But at the same time, I'm still a human that's in it. This is where my intention setting, moon setting goal for the end of 2022 was, how do I live in it, but not of it? Like, how do I be a part of supporting and committed to being a light leader and lifting things up and being a part of the wellness of a community, but not feeling so drawn into it that I'm constantly being drawn into the egoic battles that we're all still having. And I'm even having them, that's what I say about internally. I'm even having them internally. Like, I have an internal anxious tumult going on because I know that there's like still a battle within.
Going back to what I said about almost having a complete media ban, because I want to keep one toe in there. There's comfort in that. You know what I'm saying?
Your ego still wants you to serve.
Sure. Sure.
Because there's something inside your brain, because I know inside my brain, my egoic brain tells me I'm crazy all of the time. It says, you are insane. Stop telling people this stuff. And then I'm like, what? Why would I not stop telling them? Turn that junk off. If it's making you so angry at the world, why are you watching it? But we're afraid that if we turn it off, we're so conditioned. We're afraid that if we turn it off, we'll miss something.
FOMO.
And the thing we miss might be the very worst catastrophe that we all needed to know about. Or the daily very worst catastrophe that we all need to know about. Or I might miss the new thing that I've been conditioned to purchase. Oh, I didn't even know that we're supposed to be all purchasing that thing now. Oh my God, they're almost out of them. How will I purchase them? I mean, if you think about that, guess what's going to happen if you say to the world, we're having a tampon shortage? Every woman is going to run to the store for herself and her daughters and stock up the pantry with tampons.
Sure.
Guess what happens when every woman goes to the store and buys an extra glut of tampons? When there was a little bit of decrease in the amount of tampon production. Really, all there was a decrease in is the 8,000 different types of tampons you can use. Are we going without tampons? No, there's freaking tampons there. Choose a different brand for a minute.
I can't contribute to this.
You went to the store and bought them.
Well, I know.
And here's the thing. I saw it too. I saw tampon shortage. Guess what? I don't want to be without tampons. That's a bad day in my book. Right? So what am I going to do? Hey, I don't want to be concerned about these conspiracy theory things, and then the news is all getting me all stirred up again, but could you run to the store immediately and buy tampons? Because, and we need to make sure that the girls have at least a box or two in there. I mean, that didn't actually happen, but there was a sense, like, my insanity inside my internal, like, combustion of my body was saying, my daughter, like, this whole crazy nonsense that's going on out there that is causing this stuff, and we're being told to do it. Egg shortage, price of eggs. You better make sure you got a good farmer friend when you're looking for eggs. You know, and I don't mean to be that asshole. I really don't. I mean to be the loving lighthouse. But I've got just as much anxiety and fear and as anyone else does. Because I don't know anybody that's not having the same feelings I'm having. Every single person I talk to is like up in arms about everything. And they're the ones that are trying really hard to figure out how not to be up in arms about it. Not the ones that are just like, oh, whatever, I'm going to be up in arms. I'll just be up in arms.
It's difficult to understand that it's a choice, and then it's difficult to make a different choice, and then it's difficult to follow through with that choice if you make it, is all that I'm saying.
It's all that you're saying.
But it's a choice worth thinking about.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel good. Let me stop doing that. It's going to be difficult when the presidential election for me, when that kicks up again.
Oh, God.
Because I'm trained.
You know what happened
like
when you said to me those words?
Peck, yeah.
I literally feel like I want to vomit right now.
I know, right?
Like it is in my throat. Just, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to live in a world where that exists for me anymore.
I know that I don't want to contribute in any way whatsoever. I don't know how good I am at it. But of not contributing to Rancor on that subject. But
the thing about it is that if you contribute to Rancor on any subject, then you contribute Rancor to all subjects.
Well, I'm saying that...
That's the part. You can't compartmentalize it. So that's the reason why I keep saying if I'm creating Rancor about somebody that picked on me on Facebook, which actually happened, you guys... I have Rancor. I feel unhappiness. And that is enough Rancor to cause us to send pulse waves out into the 7.9 billion pulse wave makers on this planet that all are sending their Rancor. And every single rancorous thought you have creates more of it.
But understanding that it's a choice to not have that.
How do you stop it, though? How do you live in it but not of it?
It's hard.
I get up every morning and I pray to God, please show me the way, the light, and the truth. Every single morning, give me the answer today to move forward and feel like there's a reason I'm here living through this. And then I think about it and I think, well, this isn't the Dust Bowl. We're not in a civil war. I mean, like, what are we even in? We don't even know. We don't even know what uncomfortable is. I mean, that's the reason why we're up in arms about tampons. Because not that many years ago, and formula, not that many years ago, people made do with what they had.
Sriracha.
Oh my God, it's the end of the world. No sriracha? What am I going to put on my tampon?
Let's bring this episode home with our random question of the week.
Did you ever have an imaginary friend?
In my memory, no. But as an only child with a very extravagant imagination and a lot of Star Wars figures and toys and stuff, I would make worlds in my room. I would read a book and then act it out with characters and costumes and all kinds of things in my room. But I never referred to Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance.
Speaking of that, the timing of it, I wonder if there was a don't let your kids talk to imaginary friends stage of child development.
Probably.
I had imaginary friends, but I didn't tell people about them
because it was a stigma.
Yeah, because I remember feeling like I didn't want to tell people about, I had all kinds of imaginary friends, but I didn't tell people about them. I didn't tell anybody about them.
So what was one?
I don't even know
Bernard?
No, I didn't have any with necessarily, because that's the thing. If I think about it, I didn't name them. I just talked to everything. I remember being a child outside or in my closet in my room. I know that sounds strange. I was always in my closet. I think I was always supposed to be cleaning my room, and I was mostly just in the floor in the middle of a mess in my closet. Because that's how I feel about it. I was either outside, because if I'm outside, then I'm not inside having a clean house. If I'm inside, then I'm in my room.
You're hiding from cleaning house.
I'm hiding from cleaning house. That's what I remember about childhood. And the whole time that it was occurring, I was just as crazy philosophical then as I am now.
And you worked out your philosophies with your teddy bear and your...
I did.
I got it.
I talked to them about things. And when I was mad and when I was, sad, I talked to everything, and I wonder if my mom ever heard me talking to myself in my room, or was I really one of those people that was really just talking inside my own head?
You catch me talking to myself
You
now,
talk to yourself all the time.
But I'm talking to myself. I'm not talking to my buddy Bill.
Well, see, I talk to other things all the time. And my mom, of course, will answer this question immediately because she's my biggest fan. She will tell you whether or not she heard me talking to myself when I was little and whether or not, but I know that I was talking to things, even if I wasn't talking out loud, because I remember. That now, you're saying? Oh, I do it now for sure. I talk out loud now because I don't have any
you don't care anymore.
No, I don't care if somebody hears me talking out loud to myself.
Right.
I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to that rock. I'm talking to that beetle. I talk to spiders. You guys, and I'm serious. I'm not kind of like talking to something. I'm talking to it. And I'm listening for a response. And I'm watching interactions with it because it's not imaginary to me. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I didn't project it out because to me it wasn't imaginary. I remember being an older kid, like 13, 14, 15, whatever, thinking, I'm fucking crazy. I am literally crazy. I cannot tell people anything that's going on inside my mind right now because they would send me to a mental institution.
And now how are we supposed to react?
I was doing the right thing when I was a child, talking to myself and talking to things. Those things are all real. Very real.
So you would be upset to know that there was a period of time when, like, breastfeeding was off the table.
Yeah.
That having an imaginary friend is a weakness. Stop it immediately.
When I say any of this, I don't feel like any of this necessarily came down from my parents. Mm-hmm. I think it just was maybe like cultural norms. And certainly my parents were for a time, especially when I was younger, until we kind of broke through some of the molds, we were living a, somewhat culturally normal, upbringing, right? So we went to church, we went to the Methodist church, whatever. And my mom was trying to raise us up, right. in that, way.
Correctly, quote
so
unquote.
If I'm talking to things, mm-hmm. that's like occult stuff. That's like the devil. That's like, not that my mom would have never treated me like that, but that's the way that we were like raising our children back then, like trying to help them,
be very uniform.
Yeah. But I do know that every time I get into these conversations with my mom, these like spiritual, philosophical conversations with my mom is always like, oh, back when you were a kid and they were telling me this and that and this and that. And I was like, that's crazy. And so we were involved in the church, but my mom was always questioning all of the things they were telling us. Did you ever think you were going to get struck down with lightning?
My thing was the rapture has occurred and I'm alone in the grocery store. That was a fear.
I get it.
And it's rushing back to me right now.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a hellfire and brimstone Southern Baptist preacher.
Yeah. That was like one of the first things you
in
told me when I met you. And I was like, oh dear.
In a small town, the claws are bigger in a smaller town.
Yeah.
That's my anecdote.
Yeah. I agree.
There was a video shown at church.
Yeah.
And I was it was like a horror movie to a young kid.
Yeah.
You have to make this decision, or maybe because you're old enough, the age of accountability has occurred. You go to your parents' bedroom in the morning like you do every Saturday, and they're not there. And half the world maybe, or whatever the percentage is of born-again Christians, is gone. So I'd be taken to the grocery store with my mom. And I was allowed to go to the magazine section. And I would read magazines and I'd get bored and I'd go find my mom. And you do that thing where you're looking down at aisle 1, aisle 2. Oh my God, the rapture has occurred. And there's no cell phones yet.
Some of those things that like get stuck in there carry through for a long time. I was a full-fledged adult before I was like, dude, I'm about to pull the brick out of that wall because that is not working for me.
I'm concerned I've offended someone that believes that.
That believes what?
The rapture, I just described it. I'm concerned that I've offended somebody. I'm not trying to make light of what you believe.
Right.
As a young child, it was presented in a way that created fear.
Yeah. That's the part.
For me, anecdotally.
Yeah. I honestly think that's the goal, is to create fear. It's not like a stance against whether you believe in the rapture or not.
We just said this about the media. Fear keeps return customers.
Fear. That's it.
You're the solution to my fear. You're the cause of my fear. What a wacky cycle.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, it's very easy to sell you something if you're afraid of it. I mean, that's marketing 101. I've said that 1,000 times. They literally teach marketing students to manipulate you with persuasive, fear-based emotional conversation.
I can't even believe I'm about to say this because we've gone too long. But I saw an ADHD television ad. Medicine.
Don't even. I've already got a gnawing feeling in the gut of my stomach.
Okay.
Hang on to that gnawing feeling in the gut of your stomach for next week's dinner table. We love you guys.
Be afraid, but know that next week we will give you the solution.
What am I going to put on my tampon?
Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dinner Table Talks. We will be back next Monday with a fresh episode. In the meantime,
hit us up on social media, send us an email, DM us, whatever. We want to hear from you.
And we hope that you're enjoying the episodes as much as we enjoy creating them for you.
Did I say anything today?
I don't know. You talked a lot. And I didn't feel like you were waiting for me. Sometimes you're like, when are you going to help me? And I was like, nah, she's just going. We'll see what happens.